Stormy Putin against the USA and European Union. He says, you printed $8.4 trillion in euros without a trace, and now the disaster has come. It was printed in 2 years, as much as had been printed in the previous 40 years. Can you imagine? The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is stormy about the banking crisis in Western countries and what the mindless, quote-unquote, continuous printing of money without a counterpart has caused in the US and the EU, European Union. He says the crisis started from the time of anti-pandemic measures, where some developed economies abused their monopoly power in terms of currency monopolies. They opened the printing press in the US and printed $5.9 trillion. This corresponds to 38% of all money in circulation. They printed them over 2 years, which is roughly the amount printed in the previous 40 years. The same percentage in the Eurozone. They printed 2.5 trillion euros. The euro is almost parity with the dollar now. Now, they released that money into the economy and distributed it to the world, which is not a bad thing in itself. We used a similar tactic, he said, but we were very careful. It was done in moderation, so it did not lead to such a wave of inflation, he said. Based on Vladimir Putin's position, the European Central Bank, the ECB, and the USA printed almost $8.4 trillion in euros. Then interest rates due to inflation, which inflation rose due to the war and the sanctions they imposed on Russia, which resulted in the collapse of a number of banks. The Russians insist that the Biden administration spent American taxpayer money on Ukraine by giving over $100 billion to Kiev, but that's really just a drop in the ocean. But the Chinese, who own $2 trillion in U.S. treasuries, otherwise quadrupled in the secondary market, suddenly started to sell off the U.S. treasuries, and then the party is over. This is by Pro News. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.